When you have been made the villain in the shame triangle, it can be a confusing, lonely, and exhausting experience. And I think that most of the time, when someone has been made the villain in the triangle, they're not even aware that it's going on. They just have this sense that things are not right in relationships and they don't know what to do about it. So, how can you tell if you've been made the villain in the shame triangle? And what can you do to stay out of that role? Hi everybody, this is Greg from Heart Tools, where we make it simple to build great relationships. And when you have been made the villain or the bad guy in the triangle, that's because there is someone in your world for whom you're the villain and they are your victim, and you're just too powerful or too bad or too intimidating for them to talk to and deal with. So they need a rescuer in order to help them cope with the problems that you are causing them. And there are two ways this triangle can be initiated. One way is it can be initiated by the rescuer. And so let's say there's a dad and the teenager wants to borrow the car on the weekend, has plans, and it's Tuesday, and the dad says, hey, that'd be great. As long as your room is clean on Friday, you can take the car out, no questions asked, but the room has to be clean or I'm saying no. So then Friday night comes and the room isn't cleaned, so the son can't take the car out, but mom's a rescuer. And what is important to mom is not that the son becomes strong and responsible for his behavior, but what's important is to rescue the son from the pain he's experiencing. So mom says to the son, hey, don't worry about it. I know what dad said. Let's just go ahead and take the car out. Dad's away doing something. He won't even know. So dad's too strict. He doesn't know how important this is to you, right? And then what does the son say at that point? Does he say, oh, no, mom, I appreciate it, but, dad's trying to teach me to be a strong, responsible adult. I need to experience the consequences of my choices? No. The son says, oh, thanks so, mom. You're the best. You're amazing. I knew I could count on you, right? And the mom enjoys this experience of rescuing the child from pain and being the hero, but the problem is she just put the dad in the bad guy role, because the dad then becomes the person who's too strict and doesn't get how important things are to the son. And a triangle is created where the dad is the bad guy. And the more often this triangle is repeated in the life of this son with the mom, then the worse the dad gets, right? Because these issues are never dealt with, and dad goes from being the villain to the ogre to the monster over time. And so the triangle can be initiated by a rescuer. You can also be made the villain in a triangle by the person who perceives themselves as a victim. For example, you're with a friend and you do something that they perceive as being rude or arrogant or devaluing, and they're upset with you. And maybe you did do something rude or devaluing, and maybe you didn't. But the point is, they don't come to you to talk about that and give you a chance to apologize or give themselves a chance to see that, oh my goodness, they completely misunderstood you. They don't resolve that with you. Instead, they go to a third party. They go to a mutual friend to rescue them because they're so upset and they just need to vent. And this person is someone who's caring and understanding, unlike you, because you're the monster, right? They go to this third person to vent and talk about how rude you are or how selfish, how condescending, whatever it is. And they've created a triangle. And then the next time you're with this other friend, it's confusing to you because all of a sudden they're a little bit standoffish, or maybe a little cooler than usual, maybe a little less emotionally invested in the relationship, because in their mind, they're thinking of you through the eyes of this person who sees themselves as the victim. And so you can be put as the villain in the triangle by either the rescuer or by the person who perceives themselves as the victim. And this can go on for months, years, and even decades in some of the most important relationships in your life, and you're not sure what's going on because while everyone is talking about you, about how bad you are, no one is talking to you about the problems and giving you a chance to address them, to apologize when you need to and make amends, or to explain that maybe the perception is wrong. Everyone's talking about you, but no one is talking to you. So there's nothing you can do about it, and you don't know what's going on, and yet you sense relationships aren't right, and people seem a little bit emotionally guarded or emotionally distant, emotionally uninvested, and it can really be a lonely and dehumanizing place to be. So how can you know when you've been put into that villain role in the triangle? And what can you do to stay out of it? Well, there is one big tell that you have been put in the triangle, and that is when the rescuer comes to talk to you, to advocate for the villain, and it will sound something like this. For example, if the dad's the rescuer, he'll go to the mom and say, hey, our daughter, Jane, she wanted me to tell you that she was upset about this, or she wants you to do this, or she wants you to stop doing this, right? And so instead of the daughter talking to you, the dad is talking to you for the daughter, either because he's initiating the triangle or because she's initiated it with him. In either case, the dad is doing something that the daughter ought to do if you want to have a healthy relationship. Or, for example, you're at work and a coworker comes to you and says, hey, what you said in that meeting, I just wanted to let you know, but boy, that really stressed Katie out. And we all know how, fragile Katie is. And I just tell you, you really got to watch out what you say around Katie, right? And so someone is advocating for someone else. And when that happens, you can be sure that you have been made the villain in the triangle. And the way to deal with it, and it really doesn't matter whether the triangle was initiated by the person who sees themselves as a rescuer or the person who sees themselves as the villain. The way you stay out of the triangle is soon as someone comes to advocate for someone else who is old enough and strong enough and ought to be advocating for themselves, you simply shut the conversation down immediately. And you say something like, hey, I don't want to triangulate with you. If our daughter wants to ask me to do something or change something or give her something, she needs to come and talk to me about that. Or with a coworker, you shut the conversation down right away and say, listen, I don't want to triangulate. If I'm upsetting Katie in some way, then it's her responsibility to come and talk to me and not yours. And so then after you shut the conversation down, then with the person who's talking to you, you establish a principle with them and say, listen, if I have a problem with you, I promise I'm going to come to you and nobody else. If you have a problem with me, I would appreciate it if you came to me and gave me the first shot at dealing with it and not talk to other people. In the same way, I can promise you that if someone else comes to me and tells me that they have a problem with you, I will shut that conversation down and suggest that they talk to you about it. And if someone comes to you and says they have a problem with me, I would appreciate it if you would shut that conversation down and tell them to come and talk to me first about it. Is that something that we can agree on? And so you establish this principle that we are going to do this behavior to stay out of the triangle, and you ask specifically for the person's commitment to do that. Can you agree to do this with me? And when you have done that, when you have established the principles for healthy relationship and then they've agreed to it, then you just observe and you pay attention. Do they follow through with this? Is this someone that I can count on not to triangulate about me? Because again, the principle of reciprocity, it's your job to behave in healthy ways. It's not your job to make other people behave in healthy ways. It's your job to pay attention to who behaves in healthy ways and invest and lean into those relationships. And so what you'll find once you establish this principle, quite a few people will go, oh my goodness, you're absolutely right. Yes, I can agree to that. I appreciate you bringing this up. I promise that if I have a problem with you, I'll come to you. If someone else comes to me with a problem, I will shut it down and ask them to talk to you. And that will happen, and you'll have healthier relationships, and that will be a trust building experience for that relationship. And you'll find that there are other people who just can't do that. There are people who just want to be victims, and they will find rescuers to manipulate because they don't really want to take responsibility for their lives, and it's easier just to be a victim. And you'll find there are people who have to be rescuers because rescuing other people from their problems is a lot easier way to feel good about them than dealing with their own problem. And when that happens, those are just relationships that you can't fix. There's really nothing that you can do to grow good, healthy fruit in that soil with people who either need to be rescuers or need to be victims. And in those cases, you need to minimize the relationship or end the relationship altogether if you can. And again, I want to point out, as we often do here at Heart Tools, because we get this wrong so often and it creates such a mess in our culture. We're talking about conflict here. If someone comes to you with a conflict with someone else, you shut that down and send them back to the person they have conflict with. It does not apply to trauma. If someone is being abused by someone or bullied by someone or sexually harassed by someone, and they come to you, you don't shut it down and say, hey, go back to the abuser and straighten this out with them. But outside of those instances of traumatizing behavior, we want to make sure that we are not getting in the triangle for the kind of conflicts that we need to learn to deal with and handle face to face. So here is the simple step I would encourage you to practice with this video, and that is to pay attention to when you are being made the villain in a triangle because someone has come to you to advocate for someone else who really ought to be advocating for themselves. Shut that conversation down. Say, hey, you know what? If John has a problem with me, I would want to deal with that with John and not with you. So I want to shut this conversation down. And then establish the relational principle. Hey, if I have a problem with you, I will talk to you and no one else. I would appreciate the same commitment from you. If someone else tries to talk to me about a problem they have with you, I promise I'm going to shut that conversation down and send them back to you. And I would appreciate it if you do the same. Is that something that we can commit to together? And then just pay attention to who can follow that, because people who are healthy, who want to have healthy relationships will, and pay attention to who doesn't. Lean into the relationships with people who want to relate to you in healthy ways. Simple steps. Practice, practice, practice. That's what Heart Tools is all about.